organizers of the first Atlanta Tea Party downtown 3.5 years ago. And you know, the very first Tea Party, you may think the second Tea Party was the first Tea Party. That was the one with Sean Hannity, where we had 15,000 to 20,000 of our best friends. How many of you were at that Tea Party? Woo! Look at you. All right, that's awesome. That was the second one. The first one was on a very, very rainy day in March. And we gathered in front of the Capitol, and because of the whole stimulus bill thing, we were fed up with it, and we had had enough. And so we got together, and literally on a day where it was raining cats and dogs, we stood out there, and 300 of our friends joined us and stayed for an entire hour. That is a patriot, guys. That's a patriot. How many of you guys were at that very first Tea Party? One. Okay. That's all right. Me too. And I looked like I'd gotten out of the shower when I was done. It was great. But anyway, so we have a proud history of Tea Parties in this country and a proud history of Tea Parties in Georgia. And Paulding County was a huge part of that second Tea Party because we had a poster-making party right here in Paulding County, and the Brett Bayer show on Fox News came out to do a special on our poster-making party. And so we were on national television that night. So anyway, exciting times, good history. Let me tell you a little bit about Americans for Prosperity. We're a national organization. We're about fiscal responsibility in government. We are about getting citizens activated and involved and ready to take our country back, to hold it to constitutional principles. And so if you're not a member of Americans for Prosperity, please go to the table. It's the first table over here. And the one with the Dr. Pepper, that's not mine. If it's yours, please take it. But anyway, I'm just kidding. Sign up for our email list so that we can keep you up with what's going on in this state, what's going on in this country. We have got some pretty wild and crazy things going on in this country, don't we? And Jeff did a great job of mentioning some of those. But I'm going to give you a way to maybe remember this so that when you come across a liberal or a person who is so not aware of current events that they would actually consider voting for the current administration when they go into the ballot booth next month, I'm going to give you a way to remember this. What do you do when you meet a liberal? You shudder, right? Oh, how could they? How could they believe this stuff? Okay, so shudder is what we're going to go with. That's the way to remember this. Here's the problems with this administration. Spending is out of control. That's your S. H, health care. The health care law is going to break us. It's going to ruin our doctors. We're not even going to have any doctors left if they implement this thing. Unemployment. U is unemployment, which you all know about. I don't have to explain. Some of you probably are in that predicament right now if you're the average Americans. Debt. Our debt. When I started this job with Americans for Prosperity 6 years ago, our debt was $7 trillion, and I thought that was horrible, and it was horrible. You know what it is right now? $15 trillion, coming up on $16 trillion. In just 6 years, it's gone up that much. The other D is dependency. Advertising for people to get on food stamps? Really? I mean, all they want is for more and more people to become dependent on the government so that they can control them through their dependency. All they have to do then is to promise to keep giving them more things that they don't work for.
That's right.
The E, energy policy. They're killing us on our electric rates, our gas rates. How much did you have to pay for gas 4 years ago? About $1 and something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what is it now? Our electric rates are the same way. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. Regulation is out of control. It continues to grow. And it's just enough to fill up a barn, the federal regulations on everything that you do, and things you don't even do. And then last and certainly not least, and what got the Tea Party started in the beginning in Georgia, the stimulus bills. We don't need any more stimulus. We need government to get the heck out of the way. So I told you, if you got my email about this event, event, I told you I was going to give you some action steps, and I'm going to do that. And I am going to get to state and local issues. I didn't forget that. I just was so excited about this. I had to preach on a little bit. But we are taking a bus. Americans for Prosperity is taking actually 4 buses to Florida this coming Friday. And we pay for the bus, we pay for the hotel, we pay for most of your food while you're there. Get on the bus. I have a form over there. You can pick it up. You can sign up online. And the form has 2 on it, you will notice. What I want you to do is take one whole page, and I want you to cut it in half, and I want you to give it to a friend tomorrow and get them to sign up to get on the bus too. Okay? Because we need to have a great group. We're going to do door-to-door. We're going to do freedom phones. And we're going to be working in Florida because that's a state that we can really make a difference in and where a difference needs to be made. Also, I have copies of the Constitution and the Declaration over on my table. You are welcome to have one. They are free. Please pick one up on your way out. Okay, now I'm going to get to state stuff. I think the most important issue facing our state is education. This is the future of our country. This is the future of our state, and we are failing our children. How many of you think that our schools are adequate to prepare our kids for the jobs of tomorrow? Anybody? If you do, you're I don't know where you've been. But I can see you're a very well-informed crowd. The charter school amendment, I'm going to do a quick ABC of that because there's a lot of misunderstandings out there and a lot of just flat-out untruths being spread. So ABCs of charter school amendment. First, charter schools are accessible to all students. They're not allowed to cherry-pick students. They're accessible to any student who wants to go to them. They are accountable to a board that is elected within that school, and each charter school has its own board. They're not run by out-of-state companies, and they're not run by the state government, as you might have heard. They also are high-achieving. You might have heard that they don't achieve any better than other schools. Yes, they do. The independent charter schools, when measured against the schools, where the counties where those kids came from, their schools, they do much better than the schools where they came from, and that's the only fair way to measure them. That's apples to apples. Okay, B, bureaucracy. This does not create a whole new bureaucracy. It reinstates a charter school commission that we already had until the Supreme Court decided that it wasn't constitutional, which was a very divided decision, by the way, but I'm not going to go there today. But let me just assure you, it does not create a whole new bureaucracy. It reinstates a commission that, by the way, worked as volunteers with no pay, and they didn't even get their expenses covered to drive to Atlanta to meet. So that's not your typical bureaucracy, believe me, because I've seen the typical bureaucracy. That's not it. The other B is baloney. There's a lot of baloney out there about what's going on, and I'm counting on you to help me dispel some of that baloney. And I'm just going to leave that at that. Okay, let's go to C. Cash. Let's talk about the cash for charter schools, because there's another place. They're saying they're going to take our local funds, the money away from our local school. That is not true. The law that has already been passed is written that they are not allowed to take any local funds. If it's a state-approved charter schools, they get no local funds. They do get the state funds that follow that child wherever they go. So, for instance, if you have a child in a county school and that child goes to a private school, drops out, becomes homeschooled, or moves out of the county, do they get the state funds for them? Of course not. They're not teaching them anymore. So if a child goes to a charter school, they don't get the state funds for that child anymore, but then they don't have to teach them anymore either. So it's just the same as if they moved away or chose another way to be schooled. So there's really no difference there. Let's talk about those out-of-state for-profit companies. Oh my gosh, who would start a for-profit company? Right? I mean, anybody here own their own company? Okay, do y'all start that so that you wouldn't make a profit? Anybody? Just wondering. Okay, well, the for-profit company thing that keeps being touted out there, there are companies that provide services to schools, and trust me, they provide services to our traditional public schools too. But they provide services to some charter schools to help manage that charter school, accounting functions, helping them choose curriculums, those kind of functions. So that's what that is all about. So there are companies, but every charter school itself is a nonprofit entity, and you need to know that so that you'll be informed. Okay, competition. In America, we believe that competition makes things better, right?
Yes.
If you go to the grocery store down the road, if you go to Publix, and they have crummy produce or bad meat, what do? You go to Kroger. Okay, what if, or some other store, what if you don't have another store to go to? You're stuck with crummy produce. Well, let me tell you, kids all over Georgia are stuck with crummy schools.
Yep.
And that is unacceptable, and we are not going to put up with that. We don't have to put up with that. We have alternatives. Let's use those alternatives. And last but not least, at all, especially in my Tea Party friends, that issue of local control. Let's talk about that. What is more local? A school board like Gwinnett County, that they've got 7 people deciding the fate of 700,000 people that live in their county, or the parents and the home of that student. Parents, can we agree that parents are the ultimate local control, that they are the ones that know if that school is working for their child? And you may have the greatest school system in the world, but if it's not working for your child, that school system is of no use to you, and you need a different alternative to send your child to. So that local control argument is phooey. It's about system control. It's about bureaucrat control as opposed to parental control. And believe me, they are terrified of parental control. I want to ask, and I want you to ask, every bureaucrat, because they're out speaking against us everywhere, which, by the way, if they're doing it on their taxpayer-funded job, it's illegal for them to do that, but they're doing it anyway. If they're out there talking about this, I want you to ask them, sir, how many people do you think we're going to lose from our local schools if this charter school amendment passes and if a charter school comes to our county? Because then you're going to back them into a corner. Because either they're going to have to say, we're going to lose everybody, which just proves our point, that these schools are not good. Or they're going to say, well, we're not really going to hardly lose anybody because our schools are so good. Then you say, so what's your problem? So ask them that, please. I'm asking for your help. Also, I'm going to ask you for some quick things. First of all, I'm going to ask you to vote yes on Amendment 1 for charter schools. Second, I've got some bumper stickers over here that say, I am a school choice voter. You can have one. Please get one, put it on your car as soon as possible. Third, I want you to let me know if you see anybody. I already brought something up that happened in Bremen the other day. The mayor sent out a letter in the water bills opposing the amendment. That's your taxpayer dollars, guys.
Yep.
They are not allowed to run a campaign using taxpayer dollars. We know of a website of a school that put Vote No on their website. Again, that is a taxpayer resource. They are not allowed to do that, but they're doing anyway. So if you hear those things, please let me know. Send me an email and let me know about that. And then I want to invite you to go see the movie Won't Back Down. Hollywood movie. It's in the theaters. I've seen it. It's great. You'll enjoy it. Bring a friend, especially a friend that's not sure how they're going to vote on charter schools. You won't regret that. Okay, let's talk about local. Oh my gosh. I don't know what you're clapping for. If it's for our local government, you're misguided.
Whoa!
I know it's not. I'm kidding you. Yeah, what did they do? Raise our millage rate in secret. I mean, yeah, they did it at a public meeting. A public meeting held the same night as our primary, for goodness sakes, where we decide just about everybody who's going to hold office in Paulding County. Yep. They have a little huddle up there and decide to raise our millage rate. And then they voted on it. The day they voted on it, several of us showed up and wanted to speak. Do you think we were allowed to say one word?
Nope.
They made sure that they had us shut completely out. And we tried to talk to some of them when it was over with, and I got some strange responses, let me just put it that way. Yeah. It was pretty weird, but they got out of that room as quick as they could once they had raised our rates. I do want to point out that this was not our school board that did this. You know, the school board is about 2/3 of your property tax, and they have held in it the expenses, and we need to give them props for that, guys, because they have held down their expenses, so they didn't have to raise the rate, and I appreciate it for one, because property values have gone down everywhere, and this county is no exception. So for them to hold that millage rate, that means they're operating on less money than they were. Our school system, the central office costs for our school system are the second lowest in the state of Georgia. And central office is just the superintendents and the people that never really see your kids, but they work in that main office for administrative stuff. It's about $137. Guess what it is in the city of Atlanta per student per year? $3,000. Wow. Yeah. So anyway, they're doing a fairly good job in most things. County commission, though, man, I was disgusted. I spoke last year. Remember they tried to pull this thing last year? And we got up and spoke, and boy, you were there too and spoke. Several of us got up, and we were able to fight that thing back. I guess that's why they didn't want us to talk this year. You think? But wherever you are, let me tell you what's coming. Whether you're in Paulding County or another county, this, I don't know if you follow federal stuff in the QE3 stuff with the money supply, where they're going to increase our money supply. What that means in layman's terms is we're about to see drastic inflation. When that happens, what's going to happen to the value of your house?
Goes down.
It's going to skyrocket. It's going to skyrocket because of inflation. It's not going to be really worth any more relative to the economy, but it's gonna on paper it's gonna look like it's worth a lot more. Do you think they're gonna go back and lower our millage rates then?
Nope.
They're not, unless you hold them accountable. It is up to each of you to hold your elected officials accountable. I love my job. I'm the state director of Americans for Prosperity, and I can go and help, and I can go raise a little bit of cane every once in a while, and I kind of enjoy that. But you know what? We can't really make a change without each of you being involved. So I'm going to ask you one more time before I turn it over to the next person or turn it back over to Jeff. I'm going to ask you to please sign up, make sure you're on our newsletter list, get a constitution. You may have one. You may have somebody you know that doesn't have one. People need to read the Constitution. If we could get back to the Constitution, that would solve a whole lot of our problems on the federal level, on the state level, and on the local level. So thank you for letting me address you tonight. Thank you for being here. Please stay in the battle. Please pick up the materials that you need to from me, from Georgia Carey, from anybody else that has good stuff here. Thank you again, and I'll see you on the trail.